This 1967 barn find Chevy C10 Stepside is a great daily driver, but there's some annoying things that we're gonna fix to make it even better.
Oh, this one's a must. How do you spell that? Gotta do this one. This would probably be a good thing to do. Probably didn't spell that right. Fixing this issue help keep us alive. This would be a nice one to take care of. Not too fond of inhaling poison. The old straight 6 would probably run even better if we did that. We don't want to burn up that rear end. This one here might prevent us from burning down.
We'll grab the low-hanging fruit first. Sounds like somebody's ripping on a four-wheeler or something. I'm sure I have a clutch pedal pad somewhere in this box of goodies. If you know what this is, comments below, I'll give you a cookie. Brand new set of door locks. It's not low-hanging fruit, so not quite yet. I wrote ignition switch on there. What I really meant was ignition spacer. What? Who is screaming? Anyway, neat little story about these ignition spacers for 67. Talk about that when we get there. So that goes in the low-hanging fruit pile with the spark plugs. Let's finally start knocking some stuff off this list. I've just been yakking so far. I think I can make that a little bit more dramatic. That freaked me out for a second. I forgot this got pinched and chopped off when we pulled the engine out. This is going to be the first time we've looked at the plugs since we finished that ring job. I don't mind what I'm seeing here, but I really could care less. Those plugs have been through heck and back. I'm more interested in what the brand new plugs we're putting in right now are going to look like after they get some miles on them. I'm really not much of a plug gapper type. Yeah, especially with a tractor engine like this, but might as well get every little speck of performance you can, especially when it takes you a fourth of a half of a second to do it. I don't know, just the way I look at it, I guess. We're running an old points distributor here, so we'll go 35 thousandths. Wow, Autolite. Do we share the same brain? Close enough. You must have gotten dropped on your head. We'll come back to you. Close enough. Riveting content, I know. And you are cleared to participate, sir. Let's move on to carb leak. If my sneaky suspicion is correct, it's not going to be very difficult to take care of this. You remember when this was leaking on the ring job test drive, right? Maybe a little fuel leak there from the carburetor. We got some gas seepage right here between the bowl and the top of the carburetor. Then we got some down here at the bottom of the bowl. I would be willing to bet from experience that we've got some screws backing out on us. Oh, that one's a real loose goose. Wait, is it broken? How's that? Uh-oh. It's not good. What's going on here? Houston, we have a problem. I don't know what's going on here, but I don't like it. The threads in the carburetor might be stripped out. But while I'm playing with this, seeing if I can get it to thread in, I'll point out that these Rochester B carburetors, when you rebuild them, you need to make sure that the top, the bowl, and then the bottom of the carburetor, that they are flush, because they like to warp, and then when you put them together, even with a gasket, they'll leak. We knocked one thing off the list, and we've already got stripped threads on the carburetor. If you take the bracket or the washer away, or both, it will grab threads and tighten up. We're gonna go with that because we don't wanna tear this all apart so that we can get in there and fix these threads when there's a chance that just tightening the screws isn't what's going to stop the gas from leaking, and then it's all got to come apart again. Does that make sense? I think that makes sense. Yep, that makes perfect sense. That's all we can do for that one right now. Just got to see what happens. Screwdriver. This visor may look like junk to some, but to me, I love it. I gotta show you something on it. I'm gonna wipe the dust off. Oh yeah. You can see it much better now. I drove this truck for a while before I finally flipped the visor down one day and seen somebody had been counting their cows on it. I think that says 20-something calves. Not quite clear what they were doing over here. Is that some kind of math symbol? Heaven knows I wouldn't know. It's so neat how where the visor was screwed on, the paint's like brand new. A little trick if you're installing this type of visor in one of these trucks for the first time, or you ripped yours out and then 3 years later you're putting it all back together. If you screw this end in first, it's dang near impossible to pop this end into here. So the trick is slide her in first and then screw this end in. Always thinking. This one could really use a new seal, but I don't have one, and we're not going to get one here in the next 4 seconds, so I think that's good for now. We need some lubage to reduce the squeakage, though. Work it like a pro. Working it like a pro since 1957. Chevy. Rust Belt Warriors. Hey! Shake the can! Spray liberally on surfaces. Don't be shy. Spray more if needed. Blaster, are you just trying to get me to run out faster? Oh, it's got a marble in it. I didn't know that. Never used this brand of white lithium before. Take care of my squeaks. I'll be a repeat customer. It says don't be shy, but I'm going with easy does it because I don't want to empty half this can under my dashboard. Oh boy. Again, we're not getting a seal on here tonight, so it's gonna be fine. This spring right here is so that that can go up and down like that so that you can stick it up into this hole here like this, and then it will allow you to pop the bottom into place. We really need to do some metal work so that we can get that vent to sit in there properly and not pop out every 1 out of 20 times you use it. 1.5 vents, we'll call it operational. That'll make things more comfortable. Half done. Is that a mosquito making all that racket? Get out of here! I feel like such a big man bowling a mosquito. Here's the ignition spacer. It goes in between the ignition switch and the back of the dashboard. I'll show you. Without an ignition spacer, the ignition switch, the lock cylinder, and the bezel is loose and flops around, and it's a pain in the booty for everyday use. But this will solve all that. It'll keep it nice and tight. To get all this apart to put our spacer in, we need to get something down in that hole to push a pin, which will allow us to release the lock cylinder. We're going to use a big fat staple that was in the end of a piece of wood from the lumber yard. Turn our key all the way to the right. We'll stick it in the hole. And you shouldn't have to be rough. I can feel it pushing on the pin, and the pin's pushing back. That's it, just nice and easy. Push in while turning on the key to the right and then slowly pull them both out at the same time. You can see it's coming out just like that. Wait till you see what I've been using for an ignition spacer. When the truck came out of the barn, it didn't have a spacer and the aftermarket didn't make one. You couldn't get it. This is a 67 only spacer and I couldn't find one in the junkyards and I didn't happen to have one on hand. So I just cut up this piece of pipe to make up the gap and keep things tight. If you ever find yourself doing this, make sure you line up the flat edge with the flat edge in here, or you will have the time of your life trying to get this on. It will not just go on easy like that. I'll show you. If you're trying to do it like this, you're just gonna fight with this, and you need to be careful because these threads are what the French call fil fin. Okay, so that's going to make daily use of this vehicular a lot more enjoyable. It's about time I put this back in. Put this stuff in brand new, and for some reason, even after a couple weeks, it just would not settle into place and let the door close all the way properly. So I tore it out. We do need to clean this up a little bit before we put new adhesive on it, but we're just gonna get the big stuff off because this is one of those things where you could spend 3 hours trying to clean this and it's probably not gonna make a difference. I'm hoping that maybe I'll just install it better this time or something because it'd be really nice to not have this door rattle and to keep the wind noise down. There is a constant humming in here. I think it's one mosquito. Well, this stuff's not coming off very easy. I think we're just gonna sandblast the cab. We're going to attempt something that no man has ever attempted. We're all out of official weather strip adhesive. And I don't want to go buy a tube because that's at least 10 bucks, right? Something like that. That's 1,000 pennies. So we're going to use this tube of stuff called Scotch Weld. I've had this tube for many a year. Courtesy of Uncle Sam. Oh yeah, that's government issued. We only have adhesive from about here to there. We're going to let that cure just like that. Taping the weather stripping in place like this is the best way that I have figured out over time to do weather stripping. It never works when you cover the entire piece of weather stripping with adhesive and it's falling all over the place. You're trying to hold it up with the 8 arms that you don't have. You don't have to let this first section completely cure before you move on. You could put some adhesive in here, tape that in place, put some in here, tape that in place all the way around. I've never used this Scotch Weld product on this type of rubber before, so I don't know how long it's going to take to cure, and I don't want to work our way around and then have where we started fall down on top of our head. We'll probably let that cure overnight. Here is a matched set of door locks for this truck. I've had these forever, and the packaging has been opened because I took the keys out. When I first got the truck, everything was all mix-matched, and I wanted a matching set of door locks, glove box lock, and ignition key. So I bought a full matching set so that you can lock and unlock all of that with just one key. And I never installed the door locks. It's called a universal screwdriver. Oh yeah, we gotta get those off. I got a special tool for that. I reused the original clips for that lock. I didn't use those ones that came with it because I want to keep as many pieces original as possible. And I blasted everything in here with this white lithium grease. All the moving components, latch, window crank, window tracks, and it is buttery smooth. This driver's door is atrocious. It catches here, and when it gets past that, it catches here. You can see how bad that is. It's embarrassing. Everyone in the Dollar Tree parking lot is staring at you. We really should do a video sometime where we try to get all the dents out of this truck. I really want to put a porta power inside this door and see if we can't bring any of this back around. With the leading edge of this door being as rough as it is, I think maybe we should try a block of wood and a hammer and just gently try to push this back just a teeny tiny little bit, and up here too. I mean, it's not like we're gonna ruin anything. Using my finger for precision. This is one of those things your father would not have helped you fix when you were in high school. And you would have been wondering why. Why does he not want the driver's door on my car to operate quietly? The door looks the exact same. No more damage than there already was. It's not perfect, but it's catching a little bit. But that is so much better. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna get to anything on the maybe, probably not list. I'm sure hoping the oil leak on the engine is nothing major. Hopefully we didn't screw up the oil pan gasket. Looks like we might need to snug up that lifter cover a little bit. Looks like a little bit of oil's getting by, but I don't think that's causing the problem underneath. So there's oil collecting on the bottom of the dust cover for the clutch, and on the head of this oil pan bolt, and a little bit on the starter. Oh yeah, it's loose. We'll fire up in a minute and see if that fixed our leak. But since we're down here, let's move on to something else on our list. Thinking maybe just some Teflon tape would fix that. Putting Teflon tape on the threads of this drain plug requires pulling the plug out, draining the oil, and then you got to put it back in. So first, let's just see if maybe she's just loose. Well. We abandoned the poor man's creeper. Didn't want to slide with us. We're filthy enough anyways. So about this trans seal. I've been thinking about replacing it because it does sling a little bit of oil. But it's one of these things where it was probably doing it before it was even parked in the barn for 20 years. What I'm trying to say is we're going to skip that. We're not going to replace an output seal. It's within the tolerable limits. Tell you what though, if the pinion seal is leaking bad enough that we got to replace it, then we will do that trans seal as well because the drive shaft's going to come out, so might as well do them both at the same time. Is the pinion seal leaking, or are the bolts on the diff cover loose? Maybe I should have took the time to actually look at things before I made my list. It's been just a handful of minutes for you, but it's been hours for me. So I feel confident in seeing if this stuff is cured enough to hold on to this, hold this weather stripping in place. Because if it is, you can get all this done now instead of wait until tomorrow. It did it. It's doing a great job. Let's knock it out. If you've got the threshold off, you might as well clean out underneath it, behind it, prevent that pesky pitting and rust from coming in. We gotta get this choke cable working properly. You can't open and close it from in the cab, so every single morning you gotta pop the hood and take the air cleaner off and do it by hand. I'm gonna get in the cab and pull the lever back and forth and tell me if it's moving out here. Is it moving? Feels good from in here. Well, that's awesome. Thanks for helping. I appreciate it. Okay, and then now this end, you go over here on this bracket. Looks like we need to straighten the cable out. Okay, that's nice and straight. So if we set the cable into this bracket, okay, we need to make a little hook to go into this little tiny hole here. We hook this into there. And then we set that in there. And then we just set this piece on here. Well, my screw's not fitting in the hole, so we're just gonna have to take the bracket off. Probably drill that out a little bit. My panhead screw I got here is just a little too tight. Whoopsie daisy. I just stripped the threads out in that hole in the carburetor the rest of the way. I guess we're cutting new threads. Look at what happened to my tap and die set. Oh, something almost bit me. Oh, what size do you need? I think I have one. The right size tap isn't even in that set anyways. We'll have to do that some other sunny day. That's a set of tools that I need to do some upgrading on. And this screw, without this, without the choke cable bracket, the screw's grabbing just enough to tighten up and probably not let the carburetor leak any fuel. Let's knock out the last thing on our mandatory list. It's the thing I've been avoiding this entire time. The exhaust leak. It leaks like you would not believe. Come on, I'll give you a top flight tour of the exhaust system. I don't know why that's there. It's always been there. As well as its clamps just swinging there loosely. But then right next to that, we've got a broken exhaust hanger. At the rear end of the muffler, we've got an exhaust hanger that is intact, but looks like it could snap at any moment. And then here's the tailpipe hanging with a homemade semi-solid hanger. I'm kind of thinking / hoping that our culprit is that broken exhaust hanger, which is pulling down on the exhaust and creating a gap or a leak up at the manifold. So let's fire the truck up and hear the exhaust leak, and then we'll come under here and we'll see if jacking up on the exhaust pipe back here to simulate an intact hanger gets rid of the leak. My favorite part about this jack is how fast it is. Oh, it's leaking. Do I own anything that doesn't leak? It's spitting oil on the floor. Let's get under there and see where it's coming from. That happened quick. I don't like that. Everything we wiped off and tightened up earlier is dry. It's coming out the drain hole, the dust cover. Oh man! I think it changed. Did it change? I think it did. That really did make a difference, but not enough. It's still leaking.
I think we could use a ratchet strap to pull the exhaust towards the driver's side a little bit. I think that will align things a bit better, and then we'll crank down on the bolts as hard as we can. All right, that's all tightened up. Let's leave the jack and the ratchet strap in place and fire it up and see what it does. It's better than it was, but it's still leaking, darn it. The exhaust is still leaking a little bit, but it's a million times better than it was. The risk of toxic fume inhalation has dropped from 72% down to 19.3. But what's really awesome is while I was under there, I tightened up a couple more oil pan bolts, and it doesn't leak oil anymore. Imagine that. I think we're done with this. Let's let the weather strip and cure overnight, and in the morning, we'll pull the tape off, and then I think we should go for a shakedown run. Unless you don't want to go out on the back road and ship the 3 on the tree. Well, now it just smells like toxic adhesive fumes in here. Is that better or worse than exhaust fumes? She'll air out, it'll go away. Oh yeah. She's not going anywhere. Let's see how she closes. Come on. Well, it's a good thing it's permanently glued in place. I guess we just have to drive with the door off forever. I don't understand. Something's not right up at the front. It's bunching up in that corner. What if we did the old slammaroo trick? But whatever, we'll see what happens after it gets a couple days of sunshine. Let's try out our half-fixed vents and see if we get some airflow. Oh, it won't open. Okay, I guess we got a little bit more work to do on the vents. But the exhaust is a lot quieter. Not perfect, but it's a lot better, a lot more tolerable.
Oh, let's take a look at our leaks. Doesn't look like we're leaking any engine oil. The rear end looks great too. Nothing leaking. Some things need a little bit more work, but I would say that we definitely improved our daily driver over the last couple days. There's a lot more C10 action coming, so subscribe. It helps my ego.